They come from very late sources.
Yeah.
So questions about, oh, we have first century documents and so on. Which first century document talks about crucifixion of Christ? If you want to really examine the claim that you're making, share with us which first century document talks about the crucifixion of Christ.
Yeah, let's hear
I'll
it.
come back to that.
Okay, but that's the point that you were alluding to.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know a lot about Christianity.
Yeah, so
if
he
you
will
know
explain it
better,
to you.
Yeah.
then perhaps he knows better.
Go on, listen to it.
Yeah, you can.
Yes,
discuss
let's talk about
Speak,
this.
speak here, we listen. Assalamu alaikum.
Right. So talking about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, we know first of all, Islam contradicting crucifixion. First of all, it rejects Old Testament testimonies. We know that in Isaiah 53, okay, Daniel 9 talks about a Messiah that's going to be killed violently, harassed, and then after which the temple will be destroyed. That's first. Secondly, we know Isaiah 53 talks about a righteous servant who is going to be cut off because of sins of people. We know that. Okay. So first of all, prophecy points to Jesus Christ dying by crucifixion. Then we look at the early testimonies of Jesus and his followers. Jesus himself, who you believe is a prophet himself, prophesies several times that he's going to die and be crucified for our sins. So we look at the testimonies of his followers, okay, from the Bible. We look at the earliest creed in 1 Corinthians, talking about Jesus Christ dying, rising, being buried, okay? And then we look outside of the Bible, okay, external to the Bible. We look at early witnesses reporting that Jesus Christ died by crucifixion, okay? So
No, it's one, bruv, it's one.
first-century
You're
witnesses.
mistaken. It's one.
Such as?
Wait.
So what we're interested in,
Wait.
First century
we have
evidence.
Flavius.
sorry?
Thales and Flavius.
Thales.
Yeah, and Flavius.
And when did he write?
Secondly,
When did he write?
we have 52 AD. Wait, just finish. Let me finish my point. In 52 AD. Secondly, we have Tacitus.
Tacitus.
That's in the first century. We have Tacitus from the first century. Then we have the early creed, 1 Corinthians 15.
At the moment, only first century will be sufficient,
We
right?
have the earliest creed in the first century, 1 Corinthians. Then we have Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Can you show me anyone in the first century that contradicts Jesus dying by crucifixion? Show me anyone in the first century
one moment.
that contradicts Jesus dying by crucifixion.
What we're interested in is the evidence, historical evidence of his crucifixion from the first century. So the names that you have given me is
I've given you the 1 Corinthians 15 creed, the early creed.
no. When I'm not interested in creeds, I'm interested in documents from the first century.
I'm telling you documents,
Okay.
1 Corinthians.
So First Corinthians
Jackson, where he
is from the first
mentions-
century, right?
Yes. He mentions 500 witnesses.
One moment. So according to which scholar, the documents that is surviving of 1 Corinthians comes from first century?
Listen,
I am listening.
1 Corinthians is written. 1 Corinthians. When was 1 Corinthians? When did the scholars agree that 1 Corinthians was written?
Remember
You're
what I
not
asked
gonna
you?
play games.
Remember what I asked you?
You are not going to play.
Remember
games
what I'm
with me.
asking you? Remember?
No. You're not going to play games
Listen.
with me. 1 Corinthians.
I don't play
are you
games with people like
denying-
yourself, right? Because
Are you
it's not a
denying-
game.
It's not a game.
It's about knowledge,
Knowledge, yeah.
sharing of
Listen,
knowledge,
not a game.
and ascertaining the truth.
Are you denying that 1 Corinthians doesn't come even when it was written?
Okay.
When was it said that Paul was writing 1 Corinthians?
Okay, let me respond to you. Look at the double standards often employed. When we say the Quran was written, excuse me, let me finish. Please.
You need to tell me.
I am telling you, if you allow me
Because
to.
I started out. And you need to tell me.
Oh, you haven't finished?
No, wait.
Tell me when you finish, carry on.
When I'm finished. If you look at the first Corinthians 15, the creed, scholars agree that goes back very, very early to between 30 and 50 AD, okay? So that's first there. Paul writing, he mentioned 500 witnesses. saying that Jesus died and rose again. Mention 500 witnesses. So that therefore, if I say, I don't know what's his name. Mansur slapped me, and there's 500 witnesses. But no, Mansur didn't slap me. Someone will say, no, he didn't slap me. Okay, so he mentioned 500, giving an opportunity for anyone to deny that he was crucified. First of all, we go into Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Okay, they all report on the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. We go external out of non-Christian witnesses. They all report. Tacitus, we have about 62 witnesses in the first century. Tacitus, Thales, and
how many witnesses?
Flava,
60?
We have about 62. I can't mention all of them.
62 witnesses.
Roughly.
From roughly, yeah.
Okay.
First century.
But from the first century, we have evidence. So now show me from the first century anyone that contradicts that Jesus Christ died by crucifixion.
Okay. Allow me to know. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
So, I asked you, and let me repeat what I said.
Stop looking at me like
Give
that.
us documentary evidence which is surviving from the first century about the crucifixion of Christ. So you should be able to point out this museum, this library, this private collector who has this manuscript from the first century. Do we have, let me repeat to you again, do we have any surviving manuscripts, documents from the first century talking about the crucifixion? No. I will give you an opportunity to respond.
So you're saying that, do we have any surviving manuscripts? In other words, are you saying that because there was no, if there is no manuscript, manuscript dated in the first century, that means Jesus didn't die? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm asking you
the
simply.
Same way I put it to you.
No, I'm asking you
Give
simply.
me any documentary evidence from the time of Uthman, a full manuscript coming from the 6th century of the Quran.
Okay. So we were talking about.
The same way, give me manuscript evidence.
Listen.
Wait, I haven't finished.
You haven't finished?
I haven't finished.
Finish and tell us
what he's saying. Wait. What you're saying is that we need to have manuscripts dated to the same time for it to be. So, for example, if for 2017 we have to have manuscript dated in 2017 for it to be true that there's 2017 witness. First of all, you need to provide that for the Quranic books. Is there any manuscript? Secondly, we know that from the century of when Jesus lived, we know what they were writing on. They were writing on papyri that disintegrated. Yes, they were writing on papyri.
Are you saying there's no documents of papyri from the first century in our museums?
No, but what I'm saying is that the Christians, the Christian Matthew, Mark, Luke, they were writing on papyri that disintegrated. That was the main.
Sad.
Yes,
very sad. Anyway.
However, in the time of Muhammad, we know that the Muslims were in power. They were rich. By that time, we had the skin. What do you call it?
So you're answering the question I asked you, right?
Wait. I am answering you.
Which
so
is?
We know
What question have I asked you?
Wait. We know that you have Islamic literature which was written on things that were much better than papyri. So can you produce me manuscript? Then you should have your manuscript from the 6th century. Can you produce me the Quranic manuscript from the 6th century?
Okay. I love to talk about the Quran, as you always know.
Because
but the subject matter, I thought you finished.
No, I finished.
Thank you. The subject that we started talking about is the alleged crucifixion of Jesus Christ and the alleged evidence for that crucifixion.
Yes.
So I asked you a very simple question. It is not difficult to understand and comprehend. Do you have any surviving manuscripts from the first century of Christianity which talks about crucifixion? So I give you an opportunity to answer. Do you have them? Yes? No? I don't know? Maybe? I don't care. Which one is your answer?
What I'm saying to you is that
I gave you the options. Yes, we do.
I'm not gonna answer.
No, I don't. Maybe. I don't care. I don't know.
I'm not going to
Yeah? So which one? Do you have any, let me repeat again, clearly. Do you have any extant documentary evidence from the first century of Christianity that Christ was crucified?
Right. I'm saying we have documentary evidence, people that lived in the first century reporting about Jesus Christ's death and resurrection. What I'm saying
Is that a yes then?
Wait, listen to me. We have
No, I want to make it simple.
From the first
Make your answer
century.
simple because you're confusing everyone.
Are you going to allow me to respond or not?
Look, I give you easier. Look, when I
I'm
say,
not going to answer the way you...
please,
Listen,
look, I give you 5 options.
Do you want us to time this, please?
Excuse me.
Let's
Look,
time this.
you don't need to time because you're
Let's
not a child.
time
I'm not a
this,
child.
because you're not gonna
we can
speak
we
over
can
me.
we can speak very
You're
intelligently.
not going to speak over me, and I'm not going to speak over
No.
you. So
Listen.
let's time it and have...
Whether the question was this: do you possess any documentary evidence of the crucifixion from the first century of Christianity? The potential answers are.
Do you have
Let me
any
finish.
documentary
Let me
evidence
finish.
of the Quran
Let me finish.
from
So
the
you
6th century?
Let me finish.
doesn't have
You see,
the answer. That means
when
it's
you come along boasting about so-called evidence, now we are examining this evidence. So I'm asking you whether you have them. The answer to this question is simple. Yes, we do. No, we don't. I don't know.
Okay, why-
Maybe or I don't care.
Why is it
Which
important?
one is the answer?
Why is it important? Tell me why it's important.
Answer first, then I will tell you why.
Tell me why it's important and I'll answer you.
Give me the answer first, and I will tell you why it's important.
Okay, we started from here. I'm saying...
5 options. Don't give me the 6th one.
Okay,
5.
Can I respond to you? But I don't
One of
want
those
you to
5,
talk-
please.
talk
One of those
over
5.
me. I want to respond to you and I don't want you to talk over me. I'm
course.
saying to you, we have evidence right from before prophecies. Fine, you were going to put that aside. Historically, we have evidence, so many evidence from the 1st century, reports from the 1st century reporting that Jesus Christ died by a crucifixion. We have the early creed, which
You're
scholars-
repeating the same thing
I am
again?
going to repeat it just in case you don't understand it.
No.
We
I
have the-
understand, perhaps as you do,
You're
right?
not going to interrupt me.
So I asked you
Listen,
to answer
if you-
the question that
if you
I
report
asked.
me, I'm going to walk away.
You will do that, I know that, because
But
because
I'm
the
saying
moment
to
you
you,
know
I'm
your
saying-
game is up, you will walk away.
No,
I asked you to
I want
provide
you
the
to tell
evidence
me-
from the 1st century.
Are you contradicting? Are you saying to me, this is the statement I'm making to you, and you're going to tell me whether you agree with the statement or not and why, okay?
Listen what I asked you.
No.
I asked you, do you have the evidence? The answer is I do or I don't.
Listen.
What's the answer?
conversation started from me, okay? It was a conversation.
Do you have the evidence?
You walked into my conversation where I'm saying...
So do you have the evidence?
There was a absolute plethora of witnesses from the 1st century.
No, that's your belief. That's
Not
not
my
evidence.
belief.
There's a difference
Not my
between belief and evidence.
Non-Christian historians, if you go and do
Who?
research,
Who?
historians
Yeah,
agree.
who can provide me a 1st century document that Christ was crucified? Name me one historian on planet Earth that has access to a 1st century document
Do you wanna
about
have a
crucifixion.
conversation?
I am having a conversation
Do you wanna have a
already.
conversation?
I am having one.
Okay.
So name me
Sorry, can I-
one historian on planet Earth that can give you a 1st century document, extant manuscript, that Christ was crucified in the 1st century available. Go on.
Okay, so
I'm listening.
Can I respond?
That's the idea.
Okay.
Go
Are
ahead.
you going to interrupt me?
I don't interrupt. I'm asking you to
I'm going to
respond.
respond, and I don't want you to interrupt.
To my question, right?
I'm going to respond.
To my question?
I am going to respond.
To my question?
And I don't
I don't want you to respond to someone else's question. To my question, which is, do you have any 1st century documentation of Christ's crucifixion? I ask you no other question. This is my only one
I am
question.
going to respond, and if you interrupt me, I'm going to walk away. Okay? I said to you categorically that we have evidence, okay, from the 1st century, the 1st Corinthians Creed. We have evidence from Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. We have evidence outside of the external evidence, outside of Christians from the 1st century, like Lucian, Tacitus. I've named a few. You can go and research them. From the people that in the 1st century pointed to Jesus Christ dying by crucifixion. Do you contradict it? Do you disagree or do you agree? If you disagree, tell me why, and then we can discuss that. I'm not going to play your game. Do you disagree that we have a... So that the first question I asked you first of all was, is there anything from the 1st century that contradicted Jesus Christ's death and resurrection? That was the question I asked you. You didn't answer that. Secondly, do you disagree that we have evidence with the wealth of historians, with the wealth of scholars that agree that Jesus Christ died? Even Buck Ehrman agrees that Jesus Christ died by crucifixion. Do you disagree with all this wealth of evidence? So I'm going to summarize. First of all, provide me any evidence from the 1st century that contradicts Jesus' death and resurrection. Secondly, tell me if you are disagreeing with this wealth of evidence that comes from the 1st century, and then we can have a dialogue that way.
Right. So, as you've now answered the question which I asked, which was, do you have any evidence?
He's not answering my question.
Listen.
Do you agree?
When
or
you
disagree?
spoke, I didn't interrupt. So when I speak, I seek humbly that you do not interrupt as well. My question was simple. When you were discussing with my Muslim brother, there is evidence of crucifixion, right, from the 1st century. I thought that was an interesting subject that you're discussing. So I asked you this simple question. Let me repeat again. The question was, do you have any documentary evidence from the first century of Christianity that Christ was crucified? And I gave you, to make it easier for you, because people tend to do this, right? I said, here are the 5 potential answers. Yes, we do. We possess evidence from the documentary evidence from the first century. No, we don't. I don't know. Maybe there is evidence, or I don't care. Now, I have categorized specifically these 5 potential answers so that it simplifies the answer. You have provided an answer to my question, which was what? In summary then, tell me now in summary. Yes, are you saying yes, there is documentary evidence from the first century? Repeat after me. Is there evidence of documentary evidence from the first century?
Right, okay, can I...
No, I just want to say yes or no.
If you want me to respond to you, I'll respond
No,
to you.
you've already responded. I want to now clarify what you've said. Summarize in 2 statements.
Mansur, I started off this conversation.
Listen. It's not about you. It's not about you. No. What you're doing again is this. Oh, I started talking about this. No. The conversation that I came with you was simply asking you one simple question. Do you possess any documentary evidence of the alleged crucifixion of Christ from the first century of Christianity? The answer is yes, we do or we don't, right? No, hang on. I've not finished yet. You have responded to this question. I am still confused, as well as everyone listening here and the people who will be listening later. Are you saying yes, we have documentary evidence, or are you saying we don't? Summarize.
Okay, I'm saying we
from the first century of Christianity.
We have documentary evidence. 1 Corinthians 15.
I didn't ask you about 1 Corinthians or Timothy. Do you have?
Very early.
Do you have any?
As early as within.
Why are Christians so difficult to speak to?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to.
I'm asking you. Do you have any documentary evidence from the first century?
Yes.
What are they? Which one?
Wait. I've said to you, 1 Corinthians 5.
Okay, let's.
15.
Thank you.
1 Corinthians 15.
You've given me one. Let me analyze that.
Wait.
No, you've given me one. So let me analyze that.
1 Corinthians 15.
Excuse me, you've given me one.
I need to finish. You can't interrupt, but I haven't finished. 1 Corinthians 15 talks about Jesus Christ dying and rising again, and he was buried as it was prophesied, and it mentioned 500 witnesses there. So if it was something to be denied, surely the witness should say, no, by the way, it didn't exist. So 1 Corinthians...
so I've got one then. Let me analyze it. Let me examine this evidence.
They dated this creed as early as between 5 to 20 years.
Look, there's no need to give me a lecture on this. You've already given me 1 Corinthians.
I haven't finished.
Why? Do you have to even give me a whole explanation about it?
Don't interrupt me. I haven't finished. So within 5 to 20 years, it was said that creed has been going. So which is verbal. Creed is verbal. Oral tradition.
Oral tradition. So no documentary evidence.
Why are you interrupting?
Oh, I apologize. Sorry, carry on.
And then Corinthians was written down. It was dated to 55. So Paul was writing in 55
dated to when?
55 AD.
That manuscript is dated to 55
so
AD.
It's still dated, written down. The oral tradition had been going on as early as within 5 years. Okay, and the written down evidence still points to the first century.
It still points.
So 55. It is. Yes, they're all first century. They're all first century. If you're disagreeing,
okay, let me now respond.
You disagree and
let me examine. So now I asked you if you were. I'm sure you're not selective hearing things. I asked you a simple question. Does anyone understand what I mean by surviving documents from the first century? Extant documents, where you can say, there you go, that's the papyri, that's the book, that's the parchment, this is the codex.
There is none.
Right.
There is none.
Thank you, you've been very honest. Now, thank you. Right. So now.
So wait.
No, when you say none,
right. So now, I want to examine the document. I want to examine the evidence that you provided. So 1 Corinthians, you talk about, in my response to my question, do we have any documentary evidence from the first century? You said 1 Corinthians 15. That means you are telling me there is a document that survives from the first century of Christianity, the documents of 1 Corinthians 15. I have not finished.
Okay.
I have not finished.
She's not finished. Carry on.
Now this is a totally blatant ignorance. Blatant ignorance. Because 1 Corinthians, the earliest surviving documents of 1 Corinthians 15 is not from the 1st century. Are you saying we have...
Can I respond to you?
Let me finish my point and you can respond. Because I am simply asking you, provide me one piece of documentary evidence from the 1st century of Christianity, which coming from a Christian apologist, from Panda Films, wow, specialists, that what? 1 Corinthians 15 is that document, a document which is from the 1st century. I didn't say believed to be, I'm saying extant document. Are you saying we now have a document of some kind in either parchment, palimpsest, papyri, or whatever written form of 1 Corinthians 15 from the 1st century of Christianity? If you say we do, I would like to know where is this document? Which library, which museum, which private possession, which academic journal or book or publication has talked about this?
Okay, can I? So, what I understand, you're making a distinction between manuscripts and something. So, what I started here from saying is that people from the 1st century, we have evidence of people speaking from the 1st century pointing to Jesus Christ's death and resurrection. So, are you saying that if there is no, so manuscripts, if there's no manuscript evidence from that time, that means that couldn't have happened? I'll tell you why. Are you saying that means that's not true? Then if that's the case, then that means Quran is not true. Because do we have any manuscript evidence of the Quran, full manuscript writing from the 6th century? No, we do not. Do we have any evidence of Uthman's Quran, Uthman's version of the Quran? From the 6th century, no, we don't. So the point is, I said from the 1st century they were writing in papyri. So what happened? The way manuscript works is that you write, you copy it. People write letters in the 1st century. They were writing letters. People were copying it over time and over time. But we know in the 1st century they were writing on papyri. Papyri disintegrates within 50 years. It doesn't last. So it's unlikely that you would find papyri at that time because it disintegrates. However, people kept copying it and copying it and copying it. Now we have historians and scholars. They go and give different reasons why they point to a specific time, of various reasons why they point to a specific time. So what I'm saying to you is that why would you expect the manuscript to survive at that time? And doesn't mean that if there's no manuscript, if there's no written evidence from that time, does that mean that thing did not happen at that time? In that case, you're going to reject Islam because we know we don't have any Uthmanic manuscript, even though you were writing on palimpsest. Muslims were in power at that time. They were rich, they were wealthy. They were writing on palimpsest, which lasts a lot longer than papyri, but yet, why do we not have any Uthman's Quran manuscript from the 6th century? Do you have that produced? And therefore, Quran is a lie. In your
a question that I asked, the answer only takes 2 seconds. And you took minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to answer a 2-second question. I asked you, and I know it's very difficult. I know it's heartbreaking for you. I know it's totally devastating for you. It's very hurting for you to acknowledge and confess and surrender and admit that you don't have it. I asked you, do you have it? Do you possess any documentary evidence of the alleged crucifixion of Christ from the 1st century of Christianity? What you are answering is this. What you are answering is this. You are saying blah 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 blah, instead of saying no, we don't. Now be brave, be open, be woman of integrity, and say, look, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that we don't have it. So the answer is we don't. I would like you to come clean. Look, I would like you to come clean with this one statement. Simply admit to the whole world, no, we don't have any evidence, any documentary evidence from the 1st century. Go and admit that.
What I'm saying is that we have evidence You have manuscripts. You've got people. Okay, but do you want to talk about the archaeological?
We can date.
Sister.
Brother.
Okay, Lizzie's going to help me because she knows more about the archaeology.
Do you know what my question is? Do you know what my question is?
So I'm going to say we don't have any documentary
Good.
evidence.
Did you all hear that? Sorry.
But that doesn't mean-
Pause, Lizzie, a little bit. Did you all hear that?
Yes.
Let's repeat one more time. We have or we don't have?
They don't have.
Now, can I ask a different
No,
question?
please, can you just say we do or we don't have any
Answer the
evidence?
We
question.
don't
Yeah.
have a
That's it.
manuscript from the first
That's
century.
it.
That's it.
So you have no evidence
No,
for the
no,
crucifixion
we
from the
are.
first century.
But that's not true that we don't have any more evidence. We do have
Wait.
evidence. No, you know,
So-
let me finish, please.
No, I'm not speaking to you.
We
I don't know.
have-
Look, I wasn't speaking
Please
to you.
invited me in.
I've invited because
You can speak to her if you want. I have established that
Yes.
the bogus claims that you made has been crumbled to dust by your friend Lizzie herself.
That's it. She says no. She
You should
haven't
thank
got.
her. And you should be
That's it.
brave as she is.
I said to you.
Oh my
What
God.
you're letting me say, Mansur, is that just
No,
because
you already
we don't
admitted
have
it. That's it.
manuscript
That's it.
doesn't mean we
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have evidence.
End of discussion.
Because we do have
Discussion
archaeology.
over.
We
No,
have
no.
dealt
We're not
with
speaking to hate
inscriptions.
No.
We
The
have
discussion is
the-
ended.
from-
Your bogus claims has been crumbled to dust. Your dreams have been shattered by your friend Lizzie.
We're not speaking to hate preachers. Hate group, hate
Yeah?
preachers.
That's it. Thank you very
Tell me
much.
how I'm a hate preacher. Tell me how.
So we had this bogus claims by the Christian
You don't want to
followers.
have a full conversation about
Her-
this because you don't like the
Her
truth.
friend came
You don't
to
like the truth.
support her by saying what?
You don't
Debunking
like-
all her
You
statements,
don't
saying
like-
we
I
don't have
said-
any.
No,
So it's a
we have
bogus claim.
evidence.
That's it.
I said we have
Muslims in Norway are now establishing a masjid and dawah center to enhance the Norwegian dawah. If you donate to this cause, you will inshallah reap the rewards of thousands of Muslims coming back to Islam, and many of those will become du'at and invite to Islam. So click the link and donate now and share the video for extra rewards.